Roman Reigns' shocking return with Jacob Fatu. WWE just pulled off the most disgusting, manipulative stunt I've ever witnessed in my 20 years of covering professional wrestling, and if you're not absolutely furious about what happened on Monday Night Raw, then you haven't been paying attention to the systematic destruction of everything that made Roman Reigns' character transformation meaningful over the past 4 years. Let me paint you the picture of exactly how WWE just slapped every single one of us in the face. After months of build-up showing Roman Reigns humbled, defeated, and supposedly learning from his mistakes, after watching him lose the undisputed championship and seemingly embrace a more vulnerable side of his character, WWE had the audacity to bring him back with Jacob Fatu like nothing ever changed. Like his entire character arc meant absolutely nothing. But here's what's really making my blood boil, and this is where you need to pay close attention because WWE is banking on you not connecting these dots. Jacob Fatu's involvement isn't just a random pairing. This is WWE's way of saying that Roman Reigns, the supposed tribal chief who lost his way, needs to be propped up by yet another family member to maintain relevance. It's the same tired playbook they've been running for a decade, and frankly, it's insulting to our intelligence as fans. Think about it, when was the last time Roman Reigns stood on his own without the bloodline, without family politics, without some elaborate faction backing him up? The answer is never, and that's exactly the problem. WWE has created this character who cannot exist independently, and now they're doubling down on that creative bankruptcy by introducing Jacob Fatu as the next crutch. What makes this even more infuriating is the timing. Roman's return should have been a moment of redemption, a chance to show growth, to prove that he learned something from losing the championship and being humbled by Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. Instead, WWE chose the lazy route, bring back the old formula with a new coat of paint and hope we're stupid enough not to notice. And let's talk about Jacob Fatu for a moment, because his role in this travesty deserves its own spotlight of criticism. Here's a tremendously talented performer who made his name as a legitimate monster in companies like MLW, where he was allowed to be a singular, destructive force. He was the Samoan werewolf, an unstoppable beast who didn't need anyone else to validate his presence. But what does WWE do? They immediately shoehorn him into the tired bloodline narrative, reducing him to nothing more than Roman's latest bodyguard. This is the same company that ruined Solo Sikoa's individual momentum by making him another spoke in the Roman Reigns wheel. The same company that took Jimmy and GUSO, two of the most talented tag team wrestlers of their generation, and reduced them to constantly bickering siblings whose entire storylines revolved around acknowledging Roman. And now they're doing it again with Jacob Fatu, and we're supposed to cheer for this creative laziness? But the disrespect goes even deeper than just character development. It's about WWE's fundamental misunderstanding of what made Roman's recent character work compelling in the first place. The brief glimpses we saw of a more humble, uncertain Roman Reigns were the most interesting the character had been in years. There was potential for genuine growth, for exploring themes of legacy, family pressure, and personal identity that could have resonated with audiences on a deeper level. Instead, WWE chose to hit the reset button and return to the exact same dynamics that fans have been complaining about for the better part of a decade. Roman is the protected golden boy, surrounded by family members who exist solely to make him look strong, while the rest of the roster suffers in comparison. It's creatively bankrupt, and it's a middle finger to everyone who invested emotionally in the possibility of something different. Here's a question for you wrestling fans watching this: how many times are we going to let WWE insult our intelligence before we demand better? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I want to know if I'm the only one who sees through this obvious manipulation. The Monday Night Raw return itself was orchestrated with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. The music hits, the crowd pops because they're conditioned to react to entrance themes, and suddenly everyone forgets that we've been down this exact road before. Roman walks out with Jacob Fatu, and the commentary team immediately starts painting this as some kind of evolution of the character, when it's actually the complete opposite. It's regression disguised as progression. And can we talk about the visual presentation for a moment? WWE's production team did everything possible to make this return feel monumental and groundbreaking. The lighting, the camera angles, the music cues, all designed to manufacture emotion and convince you that you're witnessing something special. But strip away all that production value, and what are you left with? The same old Roman Reigns formula with a slightly different supporting cast. What's particularly galling is how this return undermines every other storyline currently happening on Raw. You've got wrestlers like Drew McIntyre, who's been carrying the show with compelling promos and genuine character work, and suddenly he's going to be pushed aside because Roman and his new bodyguard need the spotlight. You've got rising stars who've been building momentum, and now they'll be relegated to afterthoughts because the Bloodline 2.0 needs to dominate television time. This is the same pattern we've seen for years. WWE builds up other talents just enough to make them credible opponents for Roman, then feeds them to the machine to keep the tribal chief looking strong. And now with Jacob Fatu in the mix, they have an even more dominant force to steamroll through the roster, making everyone else look like second-class citizens in their own company. But here's what really gets under my skin about this whole situation: WWE knows exactly what they're doing. They understand that fans are starving for something fresh and different, so they package the same old content with slightly new wrapping and sell it as innovation. It's the wrestling equivalent of releasing the same movie with different actors and calling it a sequel. The Jacob Fatu edition is particularly cynical because it preys on our nostalgia for the original Bloodline storyline while completely ignoring why that story eventually became stale and needed to end. We went through years of the same repetitive booking patterns, the same family drama, the same acknowledge me nonsense, and just when it seemed like WWE might finally move beyond that chapter, they drag us right back into it. And let's be honest about something else, this return exposes WWE's complete lack of faith in Roman Reigns as a solo performer. After all these years, after all the pushed matches, after being positioned as the face of the company, WWE still doesn't believe Roman can carry storylines without elaborate support systems. That should tell you everything you need to know about the character's actual drawing power versus his manufactured importance. Quick question for the comments section: what other current WWE superstar do you think deserves the spotlight that Roman and Jacob are going to inevitably monopolize? I'm curious to see who you think is getting buried by this return. The timing of this return is also suspiciously convenient from a business perspective. WWE is heading into a crucial period with major events on the horizon, and rather than taking creative risks or pushing fresh faces, they're falling back on the safest possible option, the Roman Reigns formula that they know will generate a certain level of interest, even if that interest is increasingly negative. But here's the thing about playing it safe: it leads to creative stagnation. When you continuously rely on the same characters and the same storyline structures, you stop growing as a creative entity. You stop challenging yourself to find new ways to entertain your audience. And eventually, even your most reliable formulas stop working because audiences get tired of being served the same meal over and over again. The Jacob Fatu pairing also raises serious questions about WWE's development philosophy. Instead of allowing him to establish his own unique identity and storyline direction, they immediately locked him into the Roman Reigns orbit, limiting his potential for individual growth and character development. It's the same mistake they made with countless other talented performers who got absorbed into existing storylines rather than being allowed to create their own paths. This approach is particularly frustrating when you consider Jacob Fatu's impressive work outside of WWE. He's proven that he can be a compelling, dominant force without needing to play second fiddle to anyone. His run as the MLW World Heavyweight Champion showcased exactly the kind of intensity and believability that WWE desperately needs in their monster characters. But instead of capitalizing on those strengths, they've reduced him to being Roman's latest enforcer. The Monday Night Raw crowd reaction was telling, too, if you looked beyond the initial pop. Yes, people reacted to the surprise return, but listen carefully to the audio throughout the segment. The sustained energy wasn't there. The organic excitement that accompanies truly special moments was notably absent. Instead, you had the manufactured enthusiasm that WWE has become expert at creating through production techniques and strategic editing. This disconnect between WWE's presentation and the actual audience investment should be concerning for anyone who cares about the long-term health of professional wrestling storytelling. When companies become too focused on creating moments rather than building genuine narrative investment, they lose the ability to create the kind of emotional connections that turn casual viewers into lifelong fans. And speaking of long-term consequences,